Good morning. Hey, everybody, this is Quinn Welch in the mayor's office. We'll just get started in a few minutes, let a few more folks get on. Just a reminder, this meeting is an open meeting, and we are live on YouTube currently. Thank you very much.
Hey Quinn, hey Barney.
Unmute myself here. Hey Salvador, how's it going, buddy?
It's good. How have you been?
Doing good, surviving it in these strange times.
Yeah.
I guess have you been closed altogether, or what's your status?
We switched to curbside, so we've
okay.
Yeah, just kind of consolidated.
I got you. Cool.
All right, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Let's see.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good Kevin, we've got 9 people on. Do you want to go ahead and get started?
I'll look at Sal. If Sal's ready, let's go.
I think you're muted there, Kevin.
Bill, sorry I can't spell Lexington.
It's the little things. It's okay.
Well, hey everybody. I'll quickly run through the agenda and then jump right into this. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time, but I want to introduce the people on the subcommittee, just kind of go over benchmarks and guidelines, and then wrap this up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Sal, just real quick, I've got one statement I've got to read to comply with legal open meetings law. Just real quick.
Perfect.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, state of emergency, and Governor Beshear's executive orders regarding social distancing, this meeting is being held via teleconference pursuant to Senate Bill 150, as signed by the governor on March 30th, 2020, and Attorney General Opinion 20-05, and in accordance with KRS 61.826, because it is not feasible to offer a primary physical location for the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Quinn.
Thank you.
So we'll just kind of jump right into it. Some of the things I'm sure some of you are aware, and some of you that aren't, we create these subcommittees to come up with how our businesses and sectors can reopen safely. Some of them are like government and economic development, education. This one is specifically entrepreneurs, small business, and technology. Obviously, we'll lean on people like Tim as far as tech goes and how we can do this effectively and correctly. So I am Salvador Sanchez. I'm with a cup of Commonwealth, chocolate holler, and Magic Beans coffee roasters. And then I figured we can probably just go around Zoom and introduce everyone else. So Barney, just because you're up in my first left corner, if you want to.
Sure, there you go. I'm Barney Miller with Barney Millers Incorporated. Been on Main Street my whole life with my family's business. I'm the 3rd generation.
Thanks. Tim?
Yep, I'm Tim Guthrie, partners with Randall Stevens in Base 110, co-work space in downtown.
That's cool.
Bill?
I'm Bill Farmer from Farmer's Jewelry in Chevy Chase. I'm only 2nd generation, but we've been here 70 years. Glad to be part of the group today.
Great. And then Quinn?
Yeah, hi, I'm Quinn Welch. I'm aide to the mayor in the mayor's office. and working with Elodie and Kevin on coordinating this economic response committee. And thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it.
I think Paula, I don't think we've ever met, but
No, we haven't, although I have had your coffee. So I'm Paula Anderson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Interim CEO of the YMCA of Central Kentucky. So with locations in downtown, on the north side, Beaumont, and Whitaker, and Frankfurt. So
Luther.
Hi, I'm Luther Andall. My company is Able Engine. We provide custom software development services to other companies here in Lexington, and been open for 21 years of business. So that's web, mobile app development and custom software services. And I too have had a cup of Commonwealth, so I appreciate it. Not today though, not today, maybe.
Kevin.
I'm Kevin Atkins. I'm in the mayor's office, helping her with economic development.
Great. And Elodie.
Good morning. I work with Kevin and I'll be staffing this committee. And my name's Elodie Dickinson and I'm the Director of Workforce and Business Engagement.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Great. Well, thank you all. We definitely appreciate all the talent, skills, and leadership. I think this is moving really fast, so I know that this is probably tough to jump on your schedule, but I really appreciate that. So basically, the quick reopening, like benchmarks and guidelines. First, this is just phase one, so more deadlines and timeline will come as we go along. I'm sure if we have more specifics, I mean, Kevin or Elodie, you guys might know a little bit more than I do about that. And just as the coronavirus dictates. We basically need to have our findings, recommendations, and notes to the mayor's office by 12 p.m. on Friday, so this next Friday. And what I'd love is if we can start kind of compiling things sooner, and so we have a little bit of time to put together more of our comprehensive plan. And then Elodie, I'm not sure if we've got any updates from the doodle poll for the next meeting, if we have an idea yet. If not, we can figure that out too.
We've had 2 responses and they were for next Thursday at on the 13th.
Okay. So if you haven't, if we can just kind of get that completed, I'm not sure. Do we need to have that meeting scheduled in this meeting, Elodie, or can that be set up later?
Yes, that would be good if we can establish a meeting date in this meeting.
Okay.
For next week.
Okay.
Wouldn't next week be Thursday, the 14th? You said Wednesday?
Yes, that would be.
Thursday, yes. Sorry, that's the 14th. I apologize.
No, I think a week from today is great.
That works for me.
That works for me.
it works for me.
Perfect. All right. So the other thing that you'll see right after this, we'll send out some information. One, it's like a general questionnaire. We'll add some more specifics to these sectors. Mary Quinn Raymer from Visit Lex came up with this framework. So we'll utilize some of those notes and then couple that with some of the other notes that you got from that original email from like Knoxville, a lot of Quinn's notes, the governor's kind of 10 steps for healthy at work. And then just kind of keeping in mind the mayor's 3 big questions, which were what are your plans for reopening and what are the benchmarks, guidelines that are needed to reopen? What do businesses, organizations in our sectors need to do to reopen safely under the governor's 10 rules? And then what is our process for scaling back operations while safely maintaining operations in the event that we face a second wave of COVID-19? So that's like really the big, part of this and chunk of this. Obviously want to leave some room for questions and see what we can try to solve currently.
Wow. What?
So those questionnaires, will that allow us to put in some notes of the things that our businesses are planning on doing type thing and maybe compile all those together as a group? Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. And I would love, we can do it sooner than later, than even Thursday. We can kind of come back and make sure.
Yeah.
We actually have already developed kind of our opening plan, and of course we're stealing from other YMCAs around the country that are already kind of plowing ahead. But we have some question marks still around specific guidance that we expect to get from the governor or the mayor on some elements of our business. But I'm happy to share that. And we've already started putting up some physical barriers and things like that. So if there's a repository for where these plans can go, I'm happy to ship ours over whenever you need it.
Hey, Sal, I will, that's a good point. They can send Barney, either one, anybody can send those to either Elodie or Quinn. And we can kind of put them in some kind of format document so that when everybody gets back together Wednesday, they can take a clearer look at them kind of all in one composite.
Where do we send those to? Will you guys reach out to us to tell us where to send those to then?
Yeah, we'll get Quinn and Elodie to send you their email addresses.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. I mean,
Great.
this is a lot of disciplines to cover with a set of guidelines.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be
Fun.
I think. Sorry.
Coffee to jewelry to working out at the Y.
Well, I mean, it's going to be, there's different points of contact. I mean, how do you take somebody's finger size? I mean, yeah, we can all wear masks. If they got gloves on, will it fit right? You know, or Howie around the corner at Worlds Apart. I mean, that's kind of an emporium where you go in and kind of look around. I mean, you have to limit its space capacity, I guess. I don't know. We'll work it out.
So for us, some of the big challenges, and maybe we could share just a little bit. I think one is how you wear a mask when you work out. That would be an interesting challenge for us. It would be the same. How do you wear a mask and drink a cup of coffee, right? I mean, that's, you know, that's one. But some of the big issues we're struggling with and trying to find solutions to is if there's a requirement to temperature test everybody who's coming into the building. And how do we maintain capacity standards in the building if those are part of the requirement, right?
Right.
I mean, we can work on our spacing and our social distancing and putting up sneeze guards and all of those things and close down the pool and the saunas. And then you ask, why do you come? But there's some kind of big solutions that I think we would like to understand how to get our arms around them better in terms of maintaining that the physical number of people in the building, space around those people, temperature checks, all of those kind of big items that we kind of expect to be coming down the pike, and how do we staff for that?
Very good. How do you staff?
At 5:30 in the morning, we normally have a couple of people in the building for staff. If I have to have staff there to check every person's temperature when they come in. And I think the other piece I would, you know, I know the mayor asked 3 questions, but I think another piece is what's our plan if we have a COVID case? You know, I mean, if you have somebody in your building or in your business who later tests, and we just had this at one of our sites, so we're kind of going through it. So you have to be prepared to deal with that as well. And I think having some consistent community guidelines around that for all the businesses would be really, really helpful.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know if you guys have those 10 steps the governor had talked about, or the 10 rules, but just like quickly to run through them, and we'll send us an email too. But
Please.
They were telework when possible, a phased return to work, on-site health checks and temp checks, universal masks and PPE, closed common areas, enforcing social distancing, looking through like hallways and just weird workflow, developing internal policy, limit face-to-face meetings, have hand sanitizer and sanitation. So even for customers and employees, removing high risk and sick employees, having blocked teams, any special accommodation, and then just a testing plan and how to basically contact trace. So.
Wow. Contact trace. Yeah, send those. That would be good. That'd be great.
Is there anybody else, Barney or Tim or Luther, who would like to share kind of their plans for going forward?
I'll be happy to. We're in people's homes and businesses fairly often, daily, really, and being able to, supply masks for our people was a big challenge at first, but we've gotten all that taken care of. Still, there's, we're great on hand sanitizer. The white thing seems to be on back order everywhere, so we're really trying to make sure that we leave the areas that we get into very clean. Anytime we're, near a client, we're wearing masks. If we're outside doing work, we're not necessarily doing that. We're also doing like one person per vehicle, where we used to ride tandem quite often. So everybody's got their own individual vehicle meetings. We do have a store-wide meeting, but we just spread everybody out and speak loudly, that type of thing. We have already set up a station at our back door. Our showroom is currently still not open, but with the necessary supplies, I did not have, but I have on order 2 touchless thermometers. So hopefully those will be in time. It seems like everything's taking longer, but we're planning on getting people at either of our 2 entrances to test them out. And I think I missed med school, but I personally think if somebody's got a temperature over 100, that should be an alarm bell. But it sounds like a little bit higher than that is acceptable. And I don't know what other people are thinking on that.
Right now, I think from the last meeting, they had said it's 100.4.
100.4.
Wow.
That's correct.
We have just been working on a sort of we have actually been open as far as individual office space goes here. The building has been locked during the day, but if you have a key access, people could get in and come into their own offices, which will continue. We're doing, the landlord, the building owner here is doing things like we're putting hand sanitizing stations at each elevator so people coming in and out of the space. We're going to recommend people to wear masks when they're outside their offices, and it's at their discretion when they're inside their offices what they can do. So other than just, there's some nuance around having the co-work space, open space, and then the individual office space. The rest of what we're looking at doing is just around, regular cleaning, having hand sanitizer, wipes everywhere, doing regular walkthroughs, cleaning off common, door handles, light switches, and that kind of thing. So, but it's definitely a work in progress. So.
Yeah, for us, we fortuitously, my team decided we'd already worked 2 days from home. So the end of each year, we have a discussion, and they decided they would prefer to go completely remote. Wow. And so we did that January 1. And I was planning to be in base 110 when they finished the 5th floor. And then this stuff all broke out. So I'm waiting for this to finish up so I can get back into an office. So I've been working remote. So we're all remote. That's really been obviously a blessing for us, and something we couldn't have even imagined would have how it would help. We could have gone, it wouldn't have been super difficult for us to have done it, but to close down the whole office, all that type of stuff. So we were lucky. But things that I think about with this is in-person meetings. How do we resume those? And so I think we're all looking at it from having visitors come to our stores and our locations. I think it's important because we work with usability all the time to think about a visitor's perspective. How do I know what I need to do to come see you, right? So you're thinking about them coming into your place, but it's important, I think, to also communicate so that people know, a mask, do I need one for in person? Well, it sounds like May 11th that will be the case. So, okay. But, what other things? Should I bring hand sanitizer or not? Should I, can I use the restroom or can't I? These are all just little things that add up over time to make it, more convenient for a user to know, this is what I need to do. Here's how I participate in this whole the mayor's plan. So I think that's going to be an important component as well.
I think it's great.
You know, a big part of what we're going to do is multiple touches, communication touches. Slack, we've got a newsletter, signage around the building, you know, around the coffee machine, that kind of thing, just to sort of remind people about what the, you know, whether you call them rules or just expectations and, you know, personal respect of folks' space, just to make that more prominent, those points more prominent. So we're actually Luther mentioned, you know, businesses with different requirements for restaurants, storefronts. We're actually looking at reconfiguring some of our conference room space to be more day space. So if, for example, Luther's remote workers, they're all working from home, there's generally going to be some opportunity for or need for them to maybe get together once a week or once a month. And so we're going to try to accommodate that space with some defined, we're basically pivoting around what we were going to use some of the space for, but basically repurpose it for those day meetings and sort of a structure, you know, the cleaning process and everything around that. So.
And for us, we have switched to masks. We haven't let customers in a really long time. It seems like years now, but we don't have restrooms open to them. We have kind of a chalked off space in front of the shop that shows how far they have to step away from the door. Hand sanitizer stations, the curbside, we're kind of learning and evolving as we go along. We'll do deliveries and they have hand sanitizer in their cars. They're wearing masks for that. I'm trying to think, we're starting to rearrange how we're going to do meetings. Everything's been on Zoom so far, but we want to, if we ever come back to these meetings here, have tables and chairs kind of marked off as to where people can sit and how they meet. And then we're figuring out exactly how we're doing temperatures, but having everyone take their temperature before they come into work. We're going to have a log so that we know as they take it and what they say. And then we want to have something here, and we're still trying to figure that out and how that ties into the health department, how you're able to do that in your facility, and not 100% sure exactly on that. And then just closing some of our common areas. And those of you that have been in our coffee shop, it is a little bit different the way it's set up. So figuring out how we arrange that, and a lot of communication and letting people know when we're going to be working. So there's not a bunch of us at the same time. We've had to change some of the ways that we do shifts. Usually we have transitions. So some people that are leaving will run into people that are coming in. And so now we've had to figure out a way to have blocked teams like team A, team B, team C. And also in terms of transitioning, like we have to cut that time and make sure there's less people in the shop as we go along. So I'll add a bunch of that on my notes too, but it's like some of you guys have said, it's just weird. You have to think of all these little things that you probably weren't thinking about before and how to approach that.
Hey, Sal, on something you just said, would it be helpful to the folks in your industry, whether it be the coffee shops or the restaurants, to maybe get a format like this where we can get more people on, obviously, but have Dr. Humbaugh kind of walk through from a public health perspective what you all need to be thinking or addressing even?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, if he's not already on the restaurant subcommittee, he should be. I mean, that would be really helpful for, I mean, a lot of us. I mean, there's always the argument of gloves and what's safer. And so, I mean, because you watch some places will wear gloves for 3 hours and that helps no one. So there's all of these things just have to be thought out and had conversations about.
Another item that occurs to me is, well, I'm getting ready to head to Florida for a month because I got a family member who's going to, already yesterday had a major surgery and is going to take 6 to 8 weeks to recover. So I got to go down and care for them. They get out of the hospital early next week. Anyway, so I'll be able to do it remotely, the meeting still, but they have opened restaurants down there already at 25% capacity. And so they have some different things. So I'll be able to visually see what's going on, which, you know, is always good to see what some other people are doing as well and what else is going on. One of the things that I do think about though is, and I'm sure restaurants are going to address this, but merchandise, and I think retail and some of these other things, is the weather. When you look at the forecast, we're going to have a nice sustained amount of 70 plus degree weather coming up. Outdoors there, they allow 6 feet separation with unlimited seating. So, what about also from a retail standpoint where you may not be able to bring people inside? Can you bring people out? Can you go outside and meet the people and have a set of guidelines that provide some guidance for them? Because small businesses, maybe it's impractical to think that you're going to have one person in the store or two because you're real small. I mean, really, really small. But maybe you can go outside and have multiple people serving multiple people at once, and that's more practical. So I could actually see that maybe being something that catches on for a while, where people are more comfortable outside, and are able to service more people at one time versus more people indoors in the confined space, et cetera, like that. So I don't know what thought process has gone into thinking through those as well, not just for restaurants and potentially bars, but also for other retail as well.
Luther, I think you're right. So there's a group of many restaurant owners that are constantly communicating right now. And one of the big things they're pushing for, and we sent something into Ashton about this, if there's a way where some of these curbside spots or parking lots where we're able to add seating there, just because some of these restaurants that have closed temporarily, even when they get back to 25% capacity, no, they still can't run as a business. The only way they can do that is they have some seating somewhere. So that's definitely something that I know many restaurant owners would love if we can look at that in planning or something and how we approach that for the time being.
Well, I can give you, for instance, already, and I'm not going to name the location, but they open, nobody's inside, you pick up, and they have live music playing inside, and people sit outside at their cars, and it's tailgate. I mean, essentially it's separated. Everybody's separated, but you're talking. I put a chair down when I saw it the next day and sat down and had a conversation with people. What about something like that being more open? We got some challenges as far as that goes, obviously, but there you text in and say, hey, I'd like this, and they bring it to your car. So it's curbside. And to me, that's like in a very effective way to allow restaurants to have a higher capacity than they can inside. Now, it's going to have to be enforced out there, and restaurants are going to have to participate in that. And to their patrons, I can tell you, the owner he'll come out and yell out if he sees anybody even getting anywhere near close, because he doesn't want a chance of being penalized for it. It's in the parking lot, so it's not necessarily his penalty, but at the same time, he is actively policing it. I looked at it and thought, okay, this is something that could work if there were guidelines and strict guidelines, and then it was, if somebody saw a violation, right, there's a way to report it. And the owners have to have some more ability to police that, in terms of you're going to have to, so you have to add that into the equation. But they're outside, you're not taking temperatures, so I know that's a big one. Now the YMCA is completely different situation, obviously, I know that, but I'm just thinking through that for you all. So it's just something to think about. The weather's coming around, the ability to have additional capacity in terms of inside and outside, and some creative solutions. Open container would be another one that we're going to have to probably think through in that situation as well. So just my 2 cents. I'll take a look around, as I said, as I go down into Florida for a month, and see what other things they're doing as well, because they're very invested in outdoor as well.
So Sal, just so you know, we've asked Ashton shared your note with me, and we've asked the law department here to take a look under the patio, not patio, but the sidewalk cafe kind of ordinance, to see what flexibility we had under that.
Great, thank you.
If a restaurant is limited to 25% capacity, can they make out on that, or they're almost better off being closed and serving to-go food. I don't know the difference. I'm not in that industry, but I was kind of wondering what the break-even point is for a restaurant in that normal world.
Mhm. I mean, it definitely depends, but you're right. I mean, that's what a lot of them are saying too, is that if they have that, there's no reason for some of them to open. I mean, some of them can pull it off, but some of them, it doesn't make sense. And that's why they're really trying to push for the idea of seating outside.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's going to apply to a lot of us, as we're restricted to how many people can be in our buildings at once, what we can offer. Our revenue is going to really, really tank on that. And so, I mean, we're already looking at membership being down, revenue being down 70%. We can't do any programs right now because we can't run them. You know, there's for the survival piece of this,
Right.
I think is really critical. We can be innovative and hang on for a while, but we can't run 25% in the buildings for more than a little while and expect to keep the buildings open. We just can't do it.
And probably having higher costs while you're doing it because of
That's
additional
correct.
cleaning supplies, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, this is.
That's correct. I mean, we've had to
There's
order.
a number of 25% of
Yeah.
that's magic about that. I think it's.
Yeah, I mean, PPE, extra staffing costs to enforce social distancing, technology, we're looking at to screen temperatures. There's a reality check here at some point that it doesn't matter how good we are at this. If we can't get beyond 25%, a lot of us are not going to be here in 6 months. Sorry, I feel like Debbie Downer there.
Well, it needs to be said. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yep.
It is. I mean, that's just where we sit, and that's, you know.
I think the other part of this too is just depending on what processes are mandated or what requirements are mandated, it opens up for additional liability. If you have your own internal compliance rules that you set up and you don't follow those, what liability do you have if someone has, if they get sick or whatever? And I just think that's and that's part of the conversation we've had is about how detailed do we need to be in order for some guidelines to be effective.
Right.
Because if you don't enforce what you write down, that's
right.
that's additional. You're just incurring additional liability. So.
Kevin, Elodie, or Quinn, do you have any guidance as far as like how we're doing these phases? I know this is like phase 1 for us, but do we already have that being discussed yet, or are we still kind of just waiting to hear from the mayor and Bashir or whoever about it?
Almost just knocked my coffee mug over there. So so in terms of what we are doing now, I think we're talking about phase 1. We're talking about making sure that folks can reopen safely without having to keep, for folks who have their doors closed, how do we reopen safely? For folks that are operating at an extremely limited capacity, how can they operate at a more loosely restricted capacity? Phase two, I think, is where maybe we're kind of where the conversation that we've been talking about for the past 5 minutes or so. Phase 2 is that. So in terms of what this subcommittee is working on, this is phase 1 stuff. Just to clarify that.
Okay.
I think Quinn makes a good point. We had this conversation with the churches yesterday as well. This is going to need to be an ongoing dialogue even after the next week and a half. So we submit the report on where we think we are today toward reopening. There's going to have to be a next phase on how we do it, how we need to make alterations from practical experience as businesses reopen. So this is not the end of the conversation. This is very much the beginning of the conversation.
But our first deliverable is a week from Friday.
That's correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Quinn, this first round, we want to kind of keep it simple, just use basic common sense. And as we go along, we'll flesh this out a bit more and add more details and becomes more and more comprehensive as we go along.
Yes, that's correct. And I think really the two things to keep foremost are the 3 questions kind of that the mayor has put forward, and also the 10 rules for reopening that the governor's put forward as well. Because if we don't address those things right here in this week and a half, we're not going to have a basis to go off of for phase 2 later on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. All right.
One suggestion we did that I found very helpful is that we actually, rather than the leadership team just trying to think of all the things that might be worrisome, I spent some time talking to staff who work the front desks, who work the wellness centers, who are in the child care areas. So what are you worried about? You know what? And they came up with some things that I would not have thought of. Touching certain surfaces, certain areas where they knew gatherings took place that I wasn't even aware of. Have you thought of X? And so we got a lot of really good ideas and a second level of concerns from the employees who actually do the work. So if you haven't done that, when you see our plan, which is pretty detailed, you'll see a lot of that in there that otherwise would not have had happen. So if you haven't done that with your employees, you might find it useful.
Like that.
Is there anything else? If not, I'll just kind of recap some of the deliverables we'll have here. One of the big things, then we'll send out that questionnaire from Mary Quinn Raymer, so you guys can take a look at that.
Please.
And just send out a reminder again for the meeting next Thursday at 9 a.m. And you'll see Elodie and Quinn's emails on there for those of you that need to send in your plans already to them. I can also send out, if you guys need me to, the notes again for what Quinn said about Knoxville, the 10 steps from the governor, and the 3 key questions from the mayor, all in that one email to make it a little bit more comprehensive so we all have it in one spot.
And Sal, just real quick, one thing to keep in mind as you look at that Knoxville document, I'd say a lot of the content in that Knoxville document is going to differ a lot from what our document is going to look like. I just think in terms, the reason I sent that around as an example is when you look at the benchmarks and guidelines that they have set forward, stylistically, I think that's what our document's going to look like, just to give you an idea of the kinds of things that we want to keep in mind.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good start.
Thank you.
Sal,
Yeah.
real quick, just for the record, when is the next meeting and the time?
It is Thursday, May 14th at 9 a.m.
Okay, just wanted to get it on the record.
And before we get off here, just remember, send your plans that you've got for your individual businesses over to Elodie or me. It doesn't matter. And we can kind of start compiling those ahead of our meeting next week.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We really appreciate
Luther,
it.
travel safe, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you all.
See ya.